This movie had a great idea and then it lost it. Alright, so I just watched the 2026 movie Do Not Enter, and honestly, this is one of those films that had a really strong concept for me, something I was really interested in, but it just couldn't put it all together and couldn't pull the trigger on a really great product. Alright, so I just watched the 2026 movie Do Not Enter, and honestly, this is one of those films that had a really strong concept for me, something I was really interested in, but it just couldn't put it all together and couldn't pull the trigger on a really great product. It's basically a one location movie. You don't really see much outside of the hotel bar the first like 5 or 10 minutes. The set design in the hotel and the actual CGI that they did use, I thought looked quite decent. You know, it's a low budget movie. We're not expecting anything crazy here. But the one location they chose to do, I thought looked really good. So the basic concept is a group of YouTube urban explorers investigate an old abandoned hotel in search for treasure. I know it sounds cheesy, but it sounded straight up my alley, and they encounter a strange supernatural being while they're there. It really makes you feel, with its creepy, intense atmosphere, straight from the get-go. You really do feel like this abandoned hotel has a lot of character, which I find in a lot of low-budget horror movies, the place they decide to film in, or the backlot they decide to CGI in, is never that interesting. This place looks really cool, and I would have loved to have seen more of it. It really makes you feel, with its creepy, intense atmosphere, straight from the get-go. You really do feel like this abandoned hotel has a lot of character, which I find in a lot of low-budget horror movies, the place they decide to film in, or the backlot they decide to CGI in, is never that interesting. This place looks really cool, and I would have loved to have seen more of it. The first half of this movie really had me. It's about this crew going into the hotel, just exploring, having a look around. You know, it's dark, it's creepy, it's very atmospheric, and then they run into a rival YouTube crew who are also doing the same thing. They're looking for this treasure in this hotel. Both of them are trying to do the same thing. And at that point, it's a very good concept, you know, two rival crews walking around this abandoned hotel looking for treasure, why this creature kind of stalks and hunts them down. That part I'm fully in for, and I was really interested in. The film just feels very rushed, and it doesn't really give anything enough time to develop. You don't quite know what's going on, and that mystery aspect really made me interested in the movie. But the problem is, the second it gets to the second half, it just seems to fall apart, because they introduce a Satanism plot, you know, somebody being sacrificed. You see the creature way more than I would like. I think if you're going to have a creature in these sort of movies, it's got to look really good. You know, there's so many cool creature designs out there, especially in low-budget horror movies. This one is just a tall, pale guy with long nails. It's not really that crazy, and I was gutted, because when they were just showing glimpses of him crawling up the walls and stuff at the start, I was like, okay, we could be on something interesting here. Something along the lines of a Wendigo from like Until Dawn, but instead we just don't really get nothing. The rival crew that I was talking about in the first half, they're kind of in the movie for like 10-15 minutes, and then it's kind of just like forgotten about, they're not spoken about again, and that's kind of it. There's a subplot with a strange guy who joins the crew looking for his wife, and all that on top of each other. It just means it's a very messy, convoluted plot, and especially within 90-minute runtime, they're just very underdeveloped storylines, and you don't really get a lot of what you'd want. It ends up feeling very messy, overcrowded, and honestly just a little bit unfocused. Like, it doesn't really know what kind of movie it wants to be, whether it wants to be a supernatural movie, more focusing on the creature, whether it wants to be a cool, atmospheric, found footage style, you know, urban exploring movie, or whether it wants to be a generic, like, slasher, but it just can't make its mind up. As for the cast here, I can't really say anybody does a bad job. I can't say anyone's an extremely good actor, but there was no acting in this that made me go, oh dear, this is just terrible. I don't want to see these acting ever again. You know, they all do a perfectly serviceable job, and none of them take you out the movie. And when you're watching low-budget horror, that's really all you can ask for. My review of the movie, put shortly, would just be, it's not terrible, it's not amazing. Sadly, I'd give it a 4 out of 10. If it was just the first half and they'd really, you know, developed that first part a little bit more and maybe took some of the side plots out, we could be maybe looking at like a 5 or a 6 out of 10, which I know isn't much better, but you know, you're more likely to watch a 5 or a 6 out of 10 again than I ever would the 4. If it was just the first half, I'd happily watch this again, but I'm probably not going to go back to this one, unfortunately. By all means, if you find this concept interesting, I definitely check it out because I still think the ideas itself are worth giving it at least a one-time watch, and then you can make your mind up from there whether you think you agree with me on if you think there was too many side plots and they were underdeveloped, or if you think this movie was just the right amount for you. I am curious if any of you have seen this movie. I know it's only low budget, and I know it's obviously not getting the reach that, you know, your average movie in the cinema would do. But if you have seen it, what did you think of the second half? Did it ruin it for you? Did it make it better for you? What do you think about the movie overall? Thank you for watching this video. I'm trying to get into the YouTube and more long form style of videos, and I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one.